Valorum Prime hovered like a crystal leviathan in the vacuum of space, its surface gleaming with 1,000 artificial suns. The Galactic Council's pride, it was equal parts neutral ground and seat of power, where peace was brokered in the cold silence of law, not warmth of trust. Ambassador Selina Arundel walked the station's opaline corridor with diplomatic precision, her posture perfect, her pace steady. At her side skipped Lyra, her 8-year-old daughter, curious, bright-eyed, utterly unfit for the world of political calculation surrounding her. The trade negotiations had been brutal, but successful. Earth would receive limited access to the Helix wormways, faster-than-light corridors tightly controlled by the older Council species. A hard-earned step forward for humanity. "Do they always talk in circles?" Lyra asked, craning her neck to look up at a passing Noven, 7 feet tall, skin like molten stone. Selina chuckled. "Yes. It's how they stay in power." They entered the central atrium, a vast open space alive with alien flora and whispering kinetic sculptures. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A hiss of gas erupted from a nearby maintenance grate. Panic. Screams. Motion. Selina's hand reached for her daughter. Too late. A flash. Then emptiness. "Lyra?" she called, voice raw. No answer. Security swarmed. Emergency sirens wailed. A containment field sealed the atrium. But Lyra was gone. Within 2 hours, Earth's delegation had submitted a full inquiry. Within 6, they'd received the first insult. The Council's official statement declared the event regrettable, with no clear perpetrator identified. Surveillance feeds had malfunctioned. Witnesses were inconclusive. Diplomatic neutrality required patience and restraint. Selina watched the playback of the Council's press conference from a secure room aboard Earth's embassy vessel, her jaw clenched. President Anil Roy's face appeared on the holoscreen, patched in from Geneva. "We're being stonewalled," she said. Roy nodded grimly. "They want to wait it out. Let it fade. She's a child. She's a pawn to them." General Mavokov appeared beside Roy, gray-haired, armor-adjacent uniform pressed into severe lines. "Permission to activate black protocols." Roy stiffened. "We discussed this." "We did. But if the Council thinks they can touch Earth's own and hide behind process, they need a reminder." Selina leaned in. "They need to fear us again." Roy exhaled. "God help us. Do it." Beneath the choking green canopy of the Amazon rainforest, past layers of bioshielding and old war satellites, sat Black Horizon, a relic of a forgotten age. Unlike Earth's shining orbital bastions, Black Horizon wasn't meant to be seen. It was meant to survive everything else. Down in the cold heart of the facility, steel hissed. Lights bathed cryopods in ghostly blue. Dozens lined the walls, sealed coffins for men and women deemed too dangerous for peace. One pod unlocked. Steam coiled into the air as the cryogenic fog bled out. Inside, a man exhaled a rasp that echoed like thunder in a crypt. Commander Elias Kale. Muscles like woven iron cables rippled under frost-glazed skin. His chest bore jagged scars, layered over strange tattoos, ancient military sigils from a time before Earth joined the stars. His eyes opened, silver rings flickering behind dull pupils. They scanned the room. Processed faces. Movement. Threats. Vitals stabilizing. A technician whispered. Kale sat up slowly, unshaken by the wires detaching from his spine. His voice was gravel and precision. "Status?" General Volkov stepped forward. "You're awake, Commander." "How long?" 211 years. Kale stood. "What's the threat?" She handed him a tablet. It displayed Lyra's photo, smiling, clutching a plush alien toy. Beside it, data, abduction log, diplomatic location, incomplete surveillance. "A child taken. Council says it wasn't them." Kale read silently. "Then, their signatures all over it." Volkov nodded. "We're not asking them anymore. We're sending you." Kale turned to a side chamber, where a suit waited, old world armor laced with new world tech. He stepped into it. Locking mechanisms clicked as his spine connected with the system. His pulse synced with onboard AI. "You didn't wake me for war," he said as he sealed the helmet. "We woke you for a rescue." He paused. "It's still war. They just don't know it yet." He launched within the hour under diplomatic clearance, rerouted through a shadow corridor. The ship was silent. Sleek. Not even registered to Earth. Cale stood near the observation port, watching stars bend. Not once did he sit. The onboard AI scanned his vitals, logged constant battle readiness. "You remember your last mission?" Vokov's voice echoed from a data core. "Planet fall on Europa. Secured 47 civilian children during the bioplague incursion. Lost 80% of the team. Why take the risk? They were children." A pause. "You still believe in that?" "I only believe in that." The AI went silent. Valorum Prime loomed ahead, larger this time, colder. Cale watched it like a battlefield, not a political hub. The ship docked without alert. The Council hadn't yet noticed Earth's last weapon had arrived. Cale stepped off in a plain gray cloak, armor hidden beneath, pulse steady. He looked like a weary courier, forgettable. But his mind mapped exits, patterns, vulnerabilities. He wasn't here to negotiate. He passed alien diplomats who barely glanced at him. Others watched warily, sensing something off. Predators recognize predators. Cale found an uplink terminal. Fingers danced across its surface. Firewalls fell like dry leaves. Within minutes he had it, internal transfer logs, redacted codes, sealed corridor access. Lyra had been moved, alive, sedated, to a diplomatic chamber beneath the Council's core. Encrypted authorizations were traced back to the Chancellor's office. He closed the terminal. They'd buried the truth. Now he'd bury the lies. Back on Earth, in the silent halls of Black Horizon, General Volkov stood alone before rows of cryopods. Some flickered to life. Others waited. She placed a hand on Cale's now empty chamber. "God help them," she whispered. "They'd poked the old bear." A chime. A status update. Custodian deployed. Mission active. Retribution pending. Elias Cale moved through Valorum Prime like a shadow that didn't belong. The station pulsed with the orchestrated rhythm of 1,000 species, star-robed diplomats drifting between embassies, silver-skinned clerks tapping glowing glyphs, gravity shift engineers fine-tuning core balance to accommodate species with 3 different weight tolerances. The artificial gravity bent slightly under Cale's boots, just enough to remind him this was alien ground. He didn't care. He wasn't here to fit in. A fleet unregistered Earth vessel had dropped him with forged credentials, name, role, mission. Disposable fiction. Within hours of arrival, he had shed it. The cloak was gone. The armor was sealed beneath a worn diplomatic courier vest, its outer material designed to fool bioscanners, its inner core woven from Earth's last war metal, obsidian mesh. His mind processed movement, angles, audio drift. His neural net flagged key phrases from alien conversations. Missing child, Terran retaliation, custodian myth. They were already whispering. They just didn't know it was too late. He entered a low-lit data alcove tucked between 2 legal repositories. A perfect blind spot. From a satchel, he retrieved a small bone-colored cube, a stealth hack node, inserted it into the terminal. Light blinked red, then green. "Access override," he whispered. "Cale Elias. Custodian rank. Priority level, Earth Black." The node pulsed. Security layers peeled back. One by one. Within seconds, he was deep inside the Council's internal traffic logs. There. A locked transport record labeled Civic Relocation Specimen 34H. Timestamp 3 hours after Lyra's disappearance. Escort clearance came from the office of Chancellor Threxian. Cale's jaw tightened. Lyra wasn't just missing. She had been taken with authority. 3 levels above, in the heart of the central convocation chamber, the Galactic Council was in session. Holograms flickered over the floor, towering above seated envoys from dozens of civilizations. The scent of ozone and sterilized air filled the hall. No laughter. Only precision. Chancellor Threxian presided like a spider in the center of his web. His skin glistened like oil under light. He projected calm, but his eyes were sharp, coiled behind reptilian lids. Then the chamber doors opened. Slowly. Deliberately. Kale walked in. 2 guards moved forward, hands on stun batons. Stop. They did. Not because of his voice, but because of the way he stood. Kale moved through the chamber with surgical focus. Members murmured, confused. Some recognized him, vaguely. Others simply sensed the tension shift. Threxian rose. You do not have standing to speak in this chamber. Kale stepped onto the central platform. Looked up. I do now. A ripple of energy pulsed through the council's shielded floor as Kale's armor revealed itself, briefly, under his vest. A silent message. This wasn't a diplomat. This was a weapon. I'm here about Lyra Arundel, he said flatly. Your silence is over. Threxian smiled thinly. You bring threats instead of inquiries? I bring facts, Kale said. He tapped his wrist. A hologram unfurled above the chamber. Internal logs, transport scans, the false ID code for the relocation order. It all pointed one way. Signed by a council proxy, Kale said. Under your authority. Gasps. One of the Tren ambassadors stood abruptly. This violates Charter 10. A protected diplomatic minor. Threxian raised a clawed hand. This council has protocols. Investigations are underway. Kale cut him off. You have 12 hours. You're not in a position to. I'm not asking. Kale's eyes locked onto Threxian's. I'm informing. Then he turned and walked out. No one stopped him. They were too busy realizing something they had forgotten. Humans didn't bluff. Back in the underdeck, Council security scrambled. Enforcer drones were deployed. Cameras shifted. Orders were shouted in 6 languages. The diplomatic shield of Earth's delegation had been broken, making Kale, in Council terms, a hostile combatant. But Kale had already vanished into the engineering level. He moved like smoke, mapped routes, bypassed scanners, silenced magnetic locks. His AI companion, embedded in his cerebral implant, coordinated sensor blind spots with precision. Above, Threxian barked commands into a secure line. I want him off this station. Permanently. Do you want it clean? The voice asked. Threxian's face curled. No. Make it a warning. The hunters came quickly. 2 Rixen assassins, specialists in kinetic displacement. Bio-augmented limbs, cloaked projectors, short blade implants. Kale didn't wait. He ambushed the first in a vent shaft, disabling its joints with a single concussive pulse from his palm. The second lunged, but Kale moved faster, slamming it into the wall, blade snapping harmlessly against his armor. I'm not here for you, he said. The assassin gurgled, retreating into unconsciousness. Kale dropped into a forgotten service level, thick with coolant vapor and exposed conduits. He followed the faint trace of Lyra's heartbeat signature. The signal was weak but steady. He paused only when a soft chime echoed through his neural link. Incoming transmission, source unknown. A figure appeared in his retinal HUD, a Tren diplomat with smooth, indigo skin and 4 crystalline eyes. My name is Vatel. I saw your proof. And your walk. Kale didn't answer. Vatel continued. I once stood before a human father. He had lost 3 sons to a mining collapse. I watched him carry the last body out himself. You walk like he did. Kale's voice was even. Do you have something I need? Vatel sent data. The girl is being held in a disused diplomatic bay below the Xenomedical Core. Off-grid. Encrypted access only. Kale reviewed it. Then, why help me? Because there are lines you do not cross. And because I have children. Kale nodded once. The feed ended. He arrived at the exterior of the diplomatic bay a few minutes later. The doors were sealed behind layers of bio-coded encryption. He bypassed them with something older than code, controlled explosive nanites. Silently, surgically, the locks melted. He stepped inside. The air was thick with sterile coolant. Hibernation pods lined the walls, several sealed, one active. Inside, Lyra Arundel. Cryo-stabilized. Vitals stable. Cale moved to the control panel. Confirmed identity. He tapped the side of the pod. Her eyes fluttered open. Confused. Groggy. Afraid. He removed his helmet. "You're safe now," he said quietly. Lyra blinked. "You're not my dad." "No," he said. "But I'm what your dad sent." Outside, a warning siren started to rise. Cale sealed his helmet again. "Extraction begins now." The sirens flared like wolves howling through metal lungs. Red light bathed the walls as Cale cradled the cryochamber in his arms, the seal cracking as revival nanites hissed into Lyra's bloodstream. Her eyes fluttered, lips parting with a weak breath. Confusion. Terror. Recognition, none of it yet coherent. He knelt beside her as the chamber lid hissed fully open. The girl coughed once, blinking against the freezing air. "Easy," Cale said softly, voice distorted through his helmet. She shivered and tried to speak. "Where's Mom?" "Safe," he answered. "I'm here to bring you back." Her hand trembled as it reached for the edge of the chamber. He offered his palm, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. Behind them, heavy boots clanged against the grated floor. Movement. 6 life signs closing in fast. Drellic mercenaries. Cale's eyes narrowed. 6 armed, bred for conflict, conditioned for kill orders. Chancellor Threxian had clearly thrown subtlety away. He rose. Shielded Lyra with his frame. "Stay behind me." The girl nodded weakly, eyes wide. The door slammed open. The first relic stepped forward, skin matte black, eyes reptilian red, armored plating glinting beneath flexible exoflesh. He carried a fused plasma spear with edges like fractured glass. "Return the asset," it hissed. Cale's tone didn't shift. "She's not yours. You are outnumbered." Cale tapped the side of his helmet. "You're outclassed." They lunged. The first came high, spear aimed for Cale's neck. He ducked, twisted, drove an elbow into the Drelic's inner knee, shattering the joint. A twist, a rip, and the mercenary collapsed. The second swung a vibro blade. Cale caught the arm, pivoted, and drove it through the third attacker's chest. Lyra screamed, curling behind a console. Cale moved like fire in a vacuum, blinding, all-consuming. He didn't waste motion. Every strike was survival, not vengeance. The final merc snarled, backing away. "What are you?" Cale didn't answer. He simply walked toward him. The merc dropped his blade. Cale stopped. "Tell Threxian," he said coldly. "We are done being civilized." They escaped through a ventilation shaft that led to a forgotten maintenance tunnel. Lyra clung to him, every step tighter than the last. Her body shook, but she said nothing. Above, alarms changed tone. The council now knew exactly who had taken her back. "Where are we going?" she asked, voice small. "To the hangar. We're leaving this place." "Will they follow?" Cale paused at a junction and looked down at her. "Not fast enough." In the hangar, council security gathered. Patrol craft buzzed to life. Orders barked in dozens of dialects. But Cale wasn't heading for the main pads. Instead, he navigated toward a sealed emergency docking bay, an old war protocol built before the Council outlawed personal fleet deployment. Earth had buried clearance codes there for this exact scenario. Access, Custodian Cale. Code Black Horizon 5. The door slid open. Inside, an old model stealth corvette shimmered under dust-repelling stasis fields. Untouched. Untitled. Invisible to the station's registry. He carried Lyra into the pilot's seat and strapped her in. "You okay with heights?" She looked up at him. "I like roller coasters." He smiled briefly. "This will be faster." The corvette screamed out of the bay just as pursuit ships scrambled. But Kale had one advantage: this ship was his. It responded to his neural link like a second spine. He veered hard beneath docking lanes, cut left past supply arms, skimmed beneath the grav stabilizer plates. Behind them, 2 Council fighters locked on. "Deploying decoys," Kale muttered. "And lighting the fuse." A tap of his wrist. A remote ignition signal triggered the explosives he'd planted in the diplomatic bay before the rescue. The lower quadrant of the Council core erupted, non-lethal but theatrical. Warning, not war. The fighters peeled off. The corvette vanished into sublight void. They didn't speak for a while. Lyra watched the stars through the viewport, wrapped in a thermal blanket, her hands still clutching the plush alien toy from the chamber. "Are they going to be mad?" she asked finally. Kale's hands hovered over the controls, relaxed now. "Very." She nodded. "Good." Back on Earth, the situation was already boiling. President Roy stood before the EarthNet broadcast array in the Geneva Citadel. Behind him were the full Council of Earth nations, all present. All silent. The signal went out. Across the galaxy, on colony moons, council worlds, trade ships, neutral zones, holographic projectors blinked to life. The president stepped forward. His voice was low, calm, steady. 2 days ago, the daughter of Ambassador Selena Arundel was taken from Valorum Prime under the guise of a political incident. The Galactic Council stalled. Delayed. Lied. He gestured. The screen split. Footage of Lyra's abduction. Internal documents signed under Chancellor Threxian's seal. Drellic mercs inside restricted zones. Kale's retrieval, proof of life. Escape logs. "We did not come to the stars to be ruled," Roy said. "We came to learn. To grow. To coexist." Another pause. "But if you harm our children, there will be no place you can hide." In the council chamber, the feed ended. Silence reigned. Threxian stood motionless, his eyes on the smoldering wreckage of his reputation. One ambassador whispered, "They brought a myth to life." Another, "What else do they have buried?" Threxian said nothing. He knew the answer. Too much. Kale sat beside Lyra on Earth's lunar base, the soft glow of Earth hovering above them. She leaned on his arm, sleepy but calm. "You're gonna go back to sleep now?" she asked. Kale looked out at the horizon. The vaults beneath them were opening. Cryochambers long sealed, now pulsing with light. "Not yet," he said. She frowned. "Will there be more fighting?" He hesitated. "There might be. But not for you." She took his hand. Her grip was small, but certain. "Then I'm not scared." He didn't smile. But his voice softened. "Neither am I." Back in Black Horizon, General Volkov watched the awakening sequence accelerate. Status lights turned from dormant blue to active red across the chamber rows. Earth had shown restraint for 3 decades. Now the galaxy had seen what that restraint had been hiding. Final broadcast footage played once more. Kale, holding Lyra's hand, walking out of the smoke, his armor scorched but unbroken. The last line from President Roy echoed again. "You taught us diplomacy. We taught you consequence."